how to overcome addiction for good and finally live a fulfilling life. This morning kind of inspired me to make this video. I was talking with somebody online and we were discussing a person with addiction, so it kind of touched me, and it was like, hey, make this video now. And just that flood of ideas came in, so I wanted to share all of this with you. So basically what happens when we fall into addiction, I've talked about this before, is we just fall into these habits and we just stay in these habits. And the biggest thing we get addicted to is the dopamine. It's not the actual habit itself, it's what we get from performing that action is where we get that reward. So what we want to do is we want to use that same pathway but switch it to a more positive thing. We think about when we're building a new road, they don't really do it as much, but they used to, is they built the new road over the old road. They would tear up a little of it so the new road would stick to the old road, but they did not get rid of the old road, or they didn't, start a new direction and say, hey, we're going to build this new road in this new direction. Yeah, that happens sometimes, but most of the roads that we take today are the same animal and native trails that have been used for thousands of years. So we want to use that same methodology and apply it to our neurology and help us get out of this mess that we have found ourselves in. So the biggest thing that we can do, the best way to overcome addiction and move forward in life is to move into compassion, move into service, find a purpose in your life, find something that's bigger than you, something that you can give into and just fully embrace the experience of and just give your all into. Because what happens when we do that is we actually start to build ourselves up more because we're building up those around us. It's really amazing stuff. I really realized this when I was teaching snowboarding. I did not know anything about self-esteem. I had low self-esteem. I didn't really realize it until, I started giving lessons, and the students started coming up to me at the end and they were like, thank you. You made a difference in my day today. You changed my whole life today. As I started hearing that over and over and over again, it made me want to do it more and more and more and improve how I was as an instructor so I could be even more effective helping people learn how to snowboard. And what I was able to do was to apply that to my own life. And here we are today, able to apply it in our lives to get rid of this addiction problem we might have. So with snowboarding and teaching snowboarding, it was awesome because I could just give my all, and at the end of the day, I felt better. I didn't feel exhausted and tired. I didn't want to have to go watch TV and go to bed. I was in the Rocky Mountains, and you're using a lot of energy when you're doing that. But at the same time, there's certain situations that will actually bring you more energy. It's really cool. So when we're giving to the world and finding that place of service and finding that purpose, we're going to have all the energy we need, all the backing we need, all the motivation we need, and it's amazing. The other side of what we want to do besides having compassion and purpose is we want to erase. We just want to go into our past, process everything, accept what happened fully, and then just erase it and then just forget it. I used to smoke crack. I was a crackhead for 8 months. I don't think about that anymore. That does not run my life in any way. I don't sit there and think about my next hit, where I'm going to get some, should I go do that again? I'm so busy living out my purpose now that I just don't have time for those things. And it's been so long now that those roads are well laid over. So those old roads just don't stick anymore. They don't have a pathway in my brain anymore. So I don't have to worry about that. And what happens too as we age is the brain still continues to develop and change and integrate itself. So that's one of the beauties of as we get older and we move into that purpose-filled life where we're doing something new with ourselves, is all that stuff falls away and we're able to integrate everything faster and better, and we're able to look back on the lessons from a different perspective. When we look at our addiction, when we're so close to it, we identify with it so much. But when we move into something else, we realize we're not identified with that part of our personality anymore. And that allows us to just be free and free up all that energy and all that stress and frustration of, being stuck as we realize, oh, now I do have truly a way out. We can find our higher purpose, we can go to AA, we can do all these other things, but I think at the end of the day, it's really just comes back to reprogramming the subconscious and feeding yourself new information and not allowing the old information to come in anymore. You just don't have to listen to it. As you're putting that new information, it's going to cycle itself, and you're going to start hearing new thoughts in your brain, and you're going to be like, wow, that's really cool. I never thought of that before. So the more that you move into that newness of every day and just forget about all the past and all the things that happened. I'm not saying they didn't happen and we don't want to, get rid of the importance of the lessons that have come, But I think what happens is we still want to identify too tightly with things of our past. That's who I am. That's me. It's like, why not build a new me? Then you'll have something new you can stand on that's a much firmer foundation than, all the garbage that you've been living with before. So I think it's a great idea. It's just, find something new in your life. Discuss this with other people that are moving forward. Change your environment if you have to. Change your friends, change your family, change your outfit. Do everything you can to move into a new person. Because what happens is your ego and your subconscious is going to want to keep you who you are. And it's very difficult to break that initial resistance. But as you start showing yourself that you are a new person, you're going to start becoming that new person. And you're going to be like, okay, I can let that go now. At first it's kind of hard because it's you. But honestly, it's the you that you've accumulated. It's the you that you've accepted about yourself. It's the you that you've chosen to be. So guess what? You can choose to be a new you now. So why not do that? So we think about something too, like opioid addiction. Opioid addiction is going to feed the endorphin receptors exogenically. So from the outside, you're feeding the endorphins. So what we want to do, if you're the opioid kind of person, is exercise, work out, feed that endorphin pathway in a positive way, because you're going to want to continue to feed that, and that's just going to cause a positive chemical reaction in your body anyways. So it's really neat, and you're not even going to think about getting the fix and getting the drug, because you're going to be in a whole new environment internally and externally, that you're going to look back and be like, wow, how was I doing this? I look at that in my own life. I was like, how was I that person? And I'm so glad I'm not that person anymore. So I hope these tips have helped you. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to help. Please share this video with everybody, because I think it's very important that we can all move forward out of addiction. Let's find purpose. Let's have compassion for each other. Let's take care of each other, because I think that's a way to move up and out of all this. Thank you. Have a good day.